Well, hi again. This next recording is to quickly demonstrate how to set up a knowledge base for the entire faculty. With a lot of processes now having gone digital, it can be quite daunting for new faculty members or even existing faculty members to see how to get things done, especially as you continue to build up your SharePoint site, especially as you continue to build up your team and also utilize more features there. So we'll quickly demonstrate an existing knowledge base first, and then we'll see how to go and construct one. So here in the mathematics department that we have at Normanhurst Boys, we have a knowledge base, which if I quickly just open up the actual page itself, here's the end product. And that's the starting page for new staff members or even existing staff members to see what's there to read. And so it's classified under a few different banners. You've got administration. So are you new to the maths department, class formations and staff allocations, some printing quantities even, how to actually leave work when you're absent, etc. There's pages on assessment, for example, over here, and this is only 8 of the many. And so if you click on the See All button there, there's actually more that's hiding behind the scenes. Let's go back. And of course, let's just do a quick refresh as well. And so there's other sections such as IT and Microsoft 365, etc., and IT pages that are sort of classified. There's seasonal pages, which only applies every now and then, and staff induction. So what we can do is we can actually apply metadata to SharePoint pages even, so that the SharePoint page is able to scrape up these pages for us and put it under these banners, even though they could belong under more than one particular category. So having a quick look at what's happening behind the scenes, the site pages library, which is what we're going to be playing with, is another special document library there, but it only houses SharePoint pages. And here we've actually created 3 columns again, just so that SharePoint is able to work with it, and so we're also able to work with it. And in fact, obviously the file name isn't quite as important, but obviously it's still important in some ways, and we'll see how to get this sort of stuff going. But let's have a quick look at what this column is trying to do, this page type column. It seems that you actually can have more than one page type here. So let's click on this thing and go to the column settings and actually have a look at what's there. And so we've got different page types such as how to, explainer, time saver, textbooks, allocations, etc., all the way down to year 7 all the way up to year 12. So these are the different choices that you can make for the page type. So what happens with the usage column? Well, the usage is, well, we've got ongoing usage, or is it really valid only term 1, 2, 3, and 4, or is it just some sort of a once-off usage every now and then? There's not too many once-off pages. I think there's actually more ongoing pages than anything else. But there is one over here that's for the mathematics challenge, the AMT one, which is really sort of valid for term 2 because that's when they run their competition. And what about the status column? Well, we've seen the status column before in that first video. It's current, it requires update, it's deprecated, or it's historical. So that was deliberately designed to be consistent with the teaching resources library. What's important is that even in this particular site pages library, you can actually still create metadata based on what you really need. So here you might not need that many page types initially, but you can continue to grow the number of page types there to as your usage of SharePoint grows. So let's head back into our testing mathematics faculty group to see how we can actually create something like this. And the important thing is to first of all head into your pages library first. And at the moment, the pages library really doesn't have much more than the usual columns that are created. So what we'll do here is we'll add a new column here called choice. And just like before, I'll just quickly go and fish out and cheat a little bit and do a bit of copying and pasting. How to, explainer, time saver, textbooks, allocations, enrichment, assessment, teaching resources, admin, IT, Microsoft 365, induction. We'll leave the 7 to 12 for later. And I think it's actually here. So I'll just use my Windows V to quickly paste these choices in. So Windows V, and then how to, press enter, twice in fact, and then head over to Explainer, press enter twice. And I think that after Explainer we have Time Saver, etc. We then have Textbooks. We then have Allocations. So that's how classes are allocated, for example. Enrichment, Assessment, Teaching Resources, and you can obviously select the, invent your own choices there as you see fit. Obviously, this is what's sort of just developed over the last couple of years in our department. And I think we've got administration there, and we then have IT, and then we have Microsoft 365, for example, and staff induction. We don't necessarily want others to add values manually because sometimes they can start adding things in which are duplicating with existing choices. And it's important that only the owners of the site can add choices if they see fit or if others have been campaigning a little bit for it. The next step is to actually click on the more options and expand the options there. And here we want to allow the multiple selections because one page could technically belong under multiple categories. And no, we don't want this column to contain, we don't require this column to contain information because some other pages may not need this information. And so here it is. And let's just give it a name called page type. And then we'll say select the page type for each relevant knowledge base page. And so your knowledge base is really there for the purposes of knowledge retention, and so that you can, if you're a head of faculty and eventually you think you're going to be moving on, at least your faculty will be in good shape as you continue to leave pages here on how to get things done, and then so that there's continuity for your staff. Let's head back to the maths faculty one and just quickly check the options there. And yes, it allows multiple values, and no, it doesn't enforce unique ones. Let's go to the usage column, and actually let's just copy out a couple of things here. Term 2, Term 3, Term 4, once off, and come back to here, and then create a new choice column. And this is, I think this one is called usage. And again, we're going to just do a quick paste, ongoing, term 1, term 2, term 3, and term 4, and once off. And here we won't need that this column to contain information necessarily, but let's just quickly check. And no, we don't want multiple selections on this one, so let's just save it there. And the last column, of course, is our status column. So let's go in there to status and just quickly grab the stuff there. And you can format these with the icons as shown in the first video. So let's do another choice, status, and here it is. Current, requires update, whoops, choice 3 should be deprecated, and choice 4 should be historical. So we're not going to format it this time. We're just going to save that. The next step is to create your base knowledge base page, and that's because this is the page where you then spawn off into other pages. It serves as a contents page, so to speak. So let's actually go and create that. And as you hit that new button, there are 3 types of pages that you can create. The wiki page and the web part page are for SharePoint Classic. So they're actually quite old and they don't look very good. And so they're sort of carry over the design language of SharePoint from the late 1990s. Whereas this site page type is actually what we then want to do. So as we then go and create the site page, and this is going to be our first ever page, and so we'll design it so that we can then duplicate this page later and just create new pages based on this existing page. So the first thing to do is to switch off the you might also be interested in, because it then tries to scrape up all sorts of other pages from elsewhere. So we'll turn that off. You can leave the comments on or off depending on whether you want people to leave comments there or not, but let's just call it knowledge base. What you might also want to do is, could also be handy to quickly save it as the draft first, so that after you save as the draft, you can now see that the particular page name has just knowledge base to it. Now, as you then go and edit the page again, the file name, the .aspx page, doesn't change, but what we can now do is actually add an emoji in Windows by pressing Windows dot. I'm going to use the brain icon here, so you can search it up by using brain. So it's actually not a bad thing to just quietly use an emoji there so that people have a consistent visualization of what this page is all about. And the other thing about this particular page is that this web part, this top bit here, we can actually change the image. So we can actually go into the stock images here, and we can actually insert one of many very good looking stock photography images. And I might actually go and choose help. So is there a page that is help? Well, the mathematics department page actually has this particular image there. It's of two people helping each other climbing a steep mountain. So let's just insert that. And again, you could sort of set the image's focal point and just by moving that little thing. And then you can save it as draft again. Make sure that you save it every now and then. And of course, it doesn't look very good at the moment because the focus point seems to have disappeared. You might just want to sort of drag it down a little bit there again. And if you don't want your name there, you can actually just simply close it off. The other thing is you can also edit the web part to make it look a little bit different. So you might want to choose to make it look like a color block, and you can actually show the publish date, etc. But obviously the color block looks like this, the image and title looks like that, the overlap here looks a little bit like this, and the plain one is pretty plain looking. So let's go back to image and title. You can also do a text above the title, and that's what actually shows up. It looks like a little tag that's there. So we'll leave it like that. So we'll quickly save this as draft. Now that's the first sort of contents page. Let's go back in and edit this thing again. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually add in a new little, and these things here are called web parts, but we can also add in a new section. We've seen this before. So we can actually add in a single column section. We can then go and hover over the edit section button and give it some background shading and make it collapsible. It's not a bad idea to make it collapsible just so that you can have multiple sections, but the starting point, right, you may not wish to make it collapsible. You might actually want to just give it a non-collapsible section, and I'm just going to copy some of this stuff here. I'm going to turn that off. And then inside the actual section, I'm going to actually add a text web part. These text web parts have all sorts of toolbars there for you to use, and it's important that you sort of get the headings right as well. So try not to use a heading 3 as a starting point. Try and use at least a heading 1 or a 2. I would recommend starting off with heading 1 so that you can continue to use the sectioning to make it work. Here I'm going to call it the testing mathematics faculty. And so we can then keep creating more of these columns here, sections. And in fact, I'm going to actually start creating what's called, whoops, no, here it is. I'm just going to start creating these collapsible sections. And this time I will show a divider and I will collapse it by default. And so let's call it administration. Let's quickly save it just so that we see what's going on. And at the moment, it's not published, and that's why you can't see the changes there. But once you hit the publish button, just close that pane and then refresh it. Whoops, I thought it would publish. Let's see if we could add a new web part there. I think that's why it's not publishing anything. Let's just put a new little web part in here called text. Some text here, for example. Let's republish it and let's just see what we've got. And so as you then expand this, there it is. There's some text there and there's this collapsible section. Very nice. Let's now go and create another page based on this. And what we'll do is we'll select a fairly a small page here called printing quantities, and let's just try and, oops, looks like I needed to click on the actual title here. Printing quantities, and it actually gives you a collapsible section. It actually reminds the teachers of how much to print for each class, because we've got a printing form where you can then just get this string and paste it in, and the print room colleague will know what to print. So what we'll do is we will design something that looks a little bit like this, and let's just refresh it. And there's also something on the right hand side here that might be really handy. And have a look at this. There's a little button there that we can use. There's this little section here which actually tells you what page type it is, tells you what usage it is, what status it is. So in fact, all of this is pulled out from the Pages library. Let's just go into the Pages library again. All of that stuff is automated. It just pulls it out from here without you having to then manually go and set what it is inside the page. So if you've set the property there on the page, it will automatically appear. So let's see how we can actually do something like that as well. So what we'll do is we'll click on the Knowledgebase page and we'll create a copy of this page. We'll call this page here printing quantities, and we'll actually also change the image there. Stock images, print. What do we have for print? We have printer. No, it didn't quite work there. Newspaper. I think that's what it had. So we can actually do a funny newspaper one. Oh, actually, no, here it is. Okay, here is a nice one. Printing quantities. And this time you might want to stick your name against it. So I'm going to stick my name against it as the author of this page. This page provides a roundup of, let's just have a quick look at what's here. I'm just going to copy that stuff and then paste it right back in here. This page aims to give mathematics department staff a quick overview of printing quantities, and so let's in fact get rid of this section here. I don't need that. Now what I now need is a vertical section. So if you have a look at what's here, this is actually what is a vertical section. So let's go back into the new page and actually click on the new section there and actually create the vertical section, and here you go. So as that vertical section is there, if you create another section, a horizontal section, it will continue to just populate down like this, whereas this vertical section, and you can edit what it looks like, you can give it some extra shading, but usually it's nice to just leave it white. And then what we can now do is we can now go and have a quick look at, let's just close off this page, what on earth this page is trying to do in terms of that vertical section. This web part here is called the page properties web part. And so what we can do in this new page is we can actually go and add in properties. So if you just quickly search for it, there's a little web part called page properties. And what we can now do is add the properties. And on the right hand side, the pane here has now popped up so that we can now add in different properties here. So that's the metadata columns that we created earlier in this video. Add a page type, add a usage, add a status. And so at the moment, there's actually nothing added that's going to be displayed, but we'll go and change this in a minute. Let's just also grab that heading there, just quickly paste it in. Mathematics, faculty, knowledge base page. And in fact, it's also wise to actually put a button back to the original knowledge base page. So in fact, let's go back to the knowledge base page, and that's hiding in the pages library. Go back to the knowledge base and let's quickly edit this button. The label, back to knowledge base front page, for example, and then quickly paste that link in. And there you have it. There's a nice little button there. We will now quickly save this as a draft, and then quickly click on this page details button up the top, which then lets you set the page type. looks like I might actually need to do something else with it. So in fact, let's go in and edit. Let's see if that lets us do that. Page details. Does it let me set the page type here? Yes, it does. So again, if you recall the choice column that we set up, we can now actually set the page type to be a time saver. This is a time saver. It is a piece of administration. The usage is ongoing. And you can see it populate here automatically, can't you? And the status is current. And then close that pane. What's this page for? And then we can continue to populate this page with various different things. So for example, here you can actually, in the text boxes, in the text web part, you can continue to do heading ones. You can also insert tables in here. So for classes like this, and the printing quantities and the class size, etc., you can insert a table. So let's just quickly click on text. And you can do heading one like that. You can then go and insert tables. So insert a table. At the moment, it doesn't look very nice, but what you can then do is actually hit on the more options button there, and it'll let you format the table very nicely. Column 1, column 2 example, and column 3. And you can readjust these so that you suit your own agenda there. Okay, so readjust it as much as you want or as little as you like. And of course, you can continue to add columns to the right hand side. So insert right will get you another column there, etc. And so you can have all this information. You can also paste pictures directly into this box here. So let's see if we've got a picture to quickly paste. No, we don't. Let's take a screenshot and let's just somewhere. All right, let's just do this just as a test. I've done a screenshot by pressing Windows Shift S and then just Control V. You can just paste a picture in without having to insert it itself. You can align it left, etc., and you can give it some description as well. See this picture. And so once you're done, you can then publish this page. Now, having said that, once this page is published and you've got your content in there, whoops, and we haven't actually turned off the interested in, so let's just get rid of that and republish it. You then want this page to automatically appear in your knowledge base. How can we do that? So let's come back to our knowledge base page here. And let's pop our administration collapsible section open. And in fact, let's insert a new web part called highlighted content. And so what we're going to insert here is administration pages. And in fact, we're going to edit that web part as well. And here we now have some sort of metadata that we could then filter it on. So we want to actually grab stuff and put it here in tile form. We want to grab it not just from this site, we want it to grab it from the page library on this site. Now you can actually grab it from the document library or other sites as well. So as long as you've got permission to read another site, you can actually go to all sites, for example. But here I'm just going to limit it to the page library. And so therefore the type is pages, but we want to then filter it. We don't want Knowledgebase and every other page showing up in administration. We want the filter to be a page property. And what property do I want? I want the page type to equal administration. And of course, here you can now multi-select what page types. But of course, I don't want every other page type showing in here. I don't want Microsoft 365 showing up here, for example. And I want to sort it by the most recent, or I could sort it by name or title. I might want to sort it by title so that it's consistent there, if it's consistently sorted and not bouncing around each and every time. You can then choose your layout here. Usually grid is probably the easiest, but where you get a few more pages, you might want to do it in list form, but that's not as pretty. You could do it as carousel as well, but again, that looks a bit big. Film strip, that looks like a grid by default before you get a few more pages there. So let's just set it to grid. And you can show up to 8 pages, and you can hide this web part if there's nothing else to show, but we'll leave these defaults there and then republish. So at the moment, you've now got the administration page here with some text here. And so if you decide to go and create another administration-based page, let's see what other administration base page we have. We're going to discard the changes here. And let's go in and actually see pages with similar topics. Look at that. We could create that as well, couldn't we? So what we can also do is back in here, let's go in and edit this and insert a divider first, and then go and do another highlighted content subsection and related pages. And this time we're also going to set the page library on this site. It's still pages. We still want to filter it out so that the page type is still equal to administration. So that's how you can get the similar or related pages up, and we want to sort it by title again. So rather than make people go back to the knowledge base front page, you can also have a related pages web part here, or the actual name behind the scenes is the highlighted contents web part. We're going to republish this page here, and that's because once you've set up the basic structure of the first page, and it's sort of not really showing up with that the metadata here, and here it is. We now want to go and create a copy of this page, and let's see what sort of page we want, right? So let's go back over here, and let's say we go and do a new particular page called class formation and staff allocations. Can't spell. And let's just go and change the image. Let's call it class. And let's look for a quick picture where it's got class, and this looks like it's a very good image here. Insert it. And so all of these other bits you don't need to change on the right hand side anymore, unless you then create a different looking page which is not related to the administration type. So let's just get rid of this particular image, and let's say this time we want to actually make this collapsible, and we will collapse it first, and we'll make the background color the same as the top, a new collapsible section. And so you might actually have different things put in on this particular page, right? And then all you need to hit is the publish button, and suddenly you've got a new collapsible section. Your class formation and staff allocation page is there. And if you now come and refresh the knowledge base page, you'll notice that the administration section will have this new page automatically populated. So that's how you can actually create your own knowledge base based on the different sections that you want to create it for. The important thing is to go into the pages library, create the appropriate columns that are here. I would say page type, usage, and status are the bare minimum. And then, of course, using the highlighted content web part to put on the right-hand side the vertical columns, the vertical sections, that is, and also doing it on the front page, the knowledge base front page, which is going to scrape up all of those similar pages for you in one convenient location. Now, the final step of making this knowledge base page work for everyone is to, of course, update your navigation on the left-hand side. So we're going to edit this menu here, and we're actually going to add a link. And what we'll do is we'll quickly just go back to the knowledge base page here, and we'll copy that link, paste it in there, call it knowledge base, and we'll actually give it the same brain emoji icon. Click OK, and then just drag this back up and save it. The other important part is to, of course, make it visible in your team, and so you can also add it to the top of the team by clicking the plus button, clicking on SharePoint, and we're actually going to add it to add that knowledge base page here. This time I won't post to the channel about it. And here it is. So that as you pop this open, this page renders really, really well on the inside the Teams client. But the other really important thing here is that, as you notice, I've got my phone screen mirrored on this window. Let's head into the General channel and let's go into the More tab that's there. You'll notice, of course, what's been pinned onto the top rail now shows up on the More tab. Tap on the knowledge base here and you'll notice that these pages render really well on a mobile device as well. So in fact, your staff members, your colleagues can also access all of this stuff from the Microsoft Teams mobile app with almost no to very little limitation, even though the mobile phone screen is very, very small. So compared to a laptop or a desktop monitor, and you can still view almost everything as if it were on a larger device. So that's how you can create these knowledge base pages for your faculty to retain corporate knowledge.